Welcome to East Wind's voyage to Australia. So with the recommissioning of East Wind partially complete and we have her ready to take to Australia, the jury rig has been repaired enough to actually sail her. We're going to continue the rest of the work in Australia. So this is the Subic Yacht Club Marina, and this is the middle of October 2023. This is the harbour. There's a causeway there, and there's a marina precinct. It's watercraft, ship lift and storage on the left as we go out. So we're in Subic Bay in the Philippines. It's on the west coast of Luzon, north of Manila. And passing the US Navy ships there, they're fleet oilers, we call them. And there's quite a few different wharves and facilities in Subic Bay for unloading fuel and general cargo. It's quite a busy port. There's at least 3 ship movements a day that I've noticed. Heading out towards Grande Island, which is at the mouth of Subic River, we pass over the wreck of the US battleship New York, which is often has divers visiting it. It's a diving attraction. That's the container wharf on the left. It's very unusual not to have 2 or 3 ships there. There's also a northern arm to the bay off to the right there, which goes up about another 10 miles. Now straight ahead there on starboard, you can see a facility. That's the a shipbuilding yard which was built by the South Koreans, and at one time they employed 20 to 30,000 Filipinos there. They folded about 5 years ago, and it's been empty ever since. It's been purchased recently, we believe, by a Canadian syndicate or some form of equity funding. The Australian company Austral was part of it at one stage, but they apparently backed out towards the end. So we're going out through the shipping channel there, sticking to the starboard side, but there's no ships coming in or out. Now, Grande Island in the middle of the picture there, middle of the harbour, marks the entrance and is the focus of daily tours. Some of the tour boats go out there 3 times a day. They do night tours as well. And there's waterborne activities there, and bushwalks and barbecues and party atmosphere type events. This northern entrance to Subic is very barren. It's very steep to the sea, so there is no town there or much in the way of habitation at all, but there's a few farms dotted along the coast that you see. So once we get the boat set up, we're on automatic pilot there, and we turn south and head down the coast. So that's the famous Bataan Peninsula there, which separates us from Manila Bay, and we're going down the west coast of central Luzon there. So on the chart you can see Mariveles is the city at the southern tip of Bataan. That's Manila Bay. And the Quezon City off to the right there, that's all Manila. The island of Corregidor, the tadpole-shaped island to the south of Bataan, was also the scene of a big battle in several battles in World War II. First defended by the Americans and then again by the Japanese against the Americans. So we spent the time to familiarise ourselves with the Death March and the Bataan, so we went on a tour. It starts here, this is where the march finished, and they actually boarded trains to go to the concentration camp, prison camp. And then we get on the main road, which is called the Roman Superhighway, south through Bataan, passing several signs pointing us towards the Mount Summit National Shrine, which is the memorial to World War II. It's an 800 metre walk up from the car park. It's pretty steep. There's a memorial and museum halfway up. And on the road through Bataan, there are markers every kilometre or so to mark the Death March, the actual route that was taken. Offshore we passed several of these barges being towed. The tow line's about 500 metres. They trot along about 5 or 6 knots. And all I could find out was they contained black sands. And I don't know where they're going for processing. That's as much as I could find out. Our first destination was Porto Galera, which is a fantastic harbour, protected on all 4 sides of the compass. And going there's moorings for yachts. And we called up the local taxi service, which is supplied by the yacht club. If you're going to the yacht club, they don't even charge you. A lot of people live on these boats. It's catamarans, ocean-going yachts. All sorts. And we had to go around and pick up some other people on the way. They might be just taking their garbage ashore or going to do some shopping. Or maybe going for a cold drink or lunch. That's a nice little harbour racer in front there, like an 8 metre. Similar.
Beautiful.
So there's quite good markets in Porto Galera, which is Port of the Galleons in Spanish.
You don't mind me filming?
And
Okay to film?
all this fish is fresh every day. So there's a lot of markets that don't have refrigeration. So it has to be. There's plenty of meat products. There's pork and beef and sausage there. They called it bologna. So it just looked like a blood red meat sausage. I wasn't going to try it. Some pork chops and belly, chickens, etc. and fresh vegetables we bought there, and a few canned groceries. There's the Spanish galleon, just a tourist stop. You go on board and it's got various displays on board, cannon and descriptions of the Spanish-American War and how it all unfolded, the history of Spain in the Philippines. Would have been an ideal harbour for galleons like that. So there's a 200 metre walk on a boardwalk around the harbour to go up to the yacht club, which we did and had our photo taken under the sign, and that's Kimpee loves having his photo taken. And that's looking down from the club onto the harbour. We left the next morning at dawn. This was going out through the Manila Channel. And there's a bit of a hump in the middle here. We're watching the depth sounder closely. We're getting down to around 3 to 4 metres there, I think. And then when we get over the hump, Kimpee gives me the thumbs up. We can relax. So we make further easting the next day. We do a 100 nautical mile trip to Romblon Island, which is southeast. Romblon's famous for its marble. There's quite a few marble quarries there. We actually moored off one. And we heard explosions going. They're blasting the marble and cutting it and whatever. So we managed to do a bit of sailing this time. We put the mainsail up and getting a bit of breeze. This was actually the first time we were able to use the mainsail to stabilise the boat. Only about 10 knots of breeze, so it's not enough to sail. It's right on the nose, so virtually we've just pulled off a few degrees there to get it to fill. But it does give us some extra speed and great stability. Like, you don't get the rocking side to side motion. So there's 7,641 islands in the Philippines, spread over 115,000 square kilometres. There's a few of them there. The Philippines are 1,850 kilometres long and 700 kilometres wide. So to go from the west coast to the east coast, to exit the Philippines, we've got to travel 700 kilometres. The next day we went to Masbate, where we refuelled. It was quite a good little stop this. We met a guy there who had all the fuel tanks, and we filled them up and made a couple of trips and topped up the tanks. It was only 300 litres, but it was a great hop. And then we had to depart the Philippines through the San Bernardino Strait, which is the southern tip of Luzon, for Palau, 750 nautical miles, 5 days. So we had a few course changes to exit. And then once we exited to the start of the channel, it was just a straight line. That virtually is a straight line to Rabaul, and Palau's in the middle of it, so it's closer to the Philippines. But you don't have to deviate from your course. If you leave from San Bernardino, you pass through Palau, so it's a great place to have to stop and get fuel and water if you need it. So once again, this shows the conditions we had. This is called the South Pacific Ocean on the chart. We're still north of the equator here, but only just. As you can see, there's no sailing in these conditions, and no other ships to be seen. The good old Perkins just keeps on ticking over. We were operating at 1,800 revs, which averaged in these conditions 6 knots, and we were using 1 litre per nautical mile at that rate. So coming into Palau, You just see this channel appearing in the middle of the ocean. You go in, eventually coming up to an island, and then you turn right to starboard there. The channel goes south for about 20 miles to get up to where the main city is, that is the capital. Palau's got a population of 18 million. 500 islands. They use US currency. They signed a compact of free association with the US in the 70s. So either bring your US dollars or have to go and get some from the ATM. The Customs Department here works closely with our Border Force, and they have an app on their phone, Border Force app on their phone, and all our details went in there, so Border Force were aware of our intentions. Of course, we had to notify them at least 14 days before we arrived anyway. So this is miles wide, this stretch of water, and the channel's quite wide, but you have to stick to it. So finally we get to enter into the bay surrounding the CBD area. Here we met up with another yacht that was a local yacht called Joy. And she was out trialling, doing a sea trial for something to do with the engine and having problems with it. We talked to them on VHF, and they explained where exactly to go to moor safely. This is when we actually found out it was a national holiday, which arriving on a national holiday costs us quite a bit of money. So we had to pay for security to stay at the container wharf overnight. And a very pretty spot. There's plenty of protected waterways in Palau for sailing. We actually entered Palau just as in transit, 24-hour fuel and water stop. We didn't enter Palau officially through customs and immigration. They allow that, and that avoids having to pay the $500 minimum charge for a 30-day visa. So we anchored, and then the officials came out and told us to moor at the container wharf overnight, so we could be in a secure location. Yeah, beautiful spot. So after spending the night at the container wharf, we went into the boat harbour the next day, through that little gap there, and went to the fuel jetty where the dock master looked after us. This is a big dive centre there, all dive boats. The building up there is all scuba gear, and that's a hotel, a Chinese hotel that they opened a few years ago and deteriorated, and the locals condemned it, and the Chinese had to pull it down, but they didn't. They just left, abandoned it, and now it's falling down still. So that shows the island and the container wharf in the middle there. And so we exited Palau. The next leg was our biggest leg, 1,285 nautical miles, about 8 days, taking us across the South Pacific Ocean into the Bismarck Sea, and the Bismarck archipelago. We had some favourable breezes just to have the mainsail up for stability. We're still motoring here. On this occasion we're getting an extra knot of speed. It really helps. So this is a special occasion on the looking at the radar there. There's 0 on the screen, so that's within 12 miles each side. Kimpee's cooking tea for my birthday. He's doing a spaghetti bolognese. He has some sausage cut up there, and actually it turned out quite well. That red triangle there is where we are exactly, with 3 days to go. Well, 3 days to go to that next marker, which is in the middle of the Bismarck Sea. As you can see, that's a black night. That's actually the moon in the distance, just making an appearance over the horizon. Much brighter than it appears there. And out on deck, that's the deck helm. It's all the push button controls for the winches and sails, autopilot, speed, depth. Wind direction, speed. There it is, that's outside, that's better. It's always good when the moon makes an appearance. That's actually our stern light. Oh yeah. So next day we had this bird land on the rail. It's a brown booby, apparently. And Kimpee just walked up to it and picked it up and nursed it and brought it back to the cockpit and sat away and patted it and didn't seem to mind. And this happened a couple of times, because there's a pair of them. They hunt in pairs. And like we're 500 miles from the nearest land there. So we managed to do some more sailing as we swung into the Bismarck Sea. Got both sails up there and getting a real lift out of that breeze.
The first time.
An extra knot of speed.
Not another ship in sight.
There's no sea running there hardly. And here we are crossing the equator. So 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1, north, 0, south. Welcome to the Southern Hemisphere.
That's it.
It's been a while. Yes, that's a first for me.
We are now in the Southern
Celebrated with a glass of water. So not long after that, at dawn, we arrived in Rabaul. Beautiful morning. Can't beat those sunrise at sea. At the entrance to Rabaul, there's a group of volcanoes, 5 of them, mostly dormant, but one's still puffing away. The sunlight is just reaching the tip of the highest one there. As the sun rises. see a puff of smoke coming from the volcano. That's the one that erupted in '94. And that puffs on and off all day. Once again, we tried to call up the local harbour control on VHF. And there was also a ship came in with us, which was on its way to the Solomon Islands. And they called at least 16 times. We called 4 or 5 times. No answer. We were welcomed by a school of dolphins. There were actually 3 schools that we could count, there are hundreds of them. So I don't know how the local fishermen get on. I don't think there'll be many fish left. So you go around the point where the volcanoes are and up into the old town of Rabaul, where we moored. The customs came aboard and cleared us. We stayed there the night. We weren't allowed ashore because there was currently a civil unrest, a dispute between the locals and the townsfolk and the village people. They were having a fight, so it wasn't strong advice. We were just barred. You can't go ashore, period. Okay, I was looking forward to doing a tour of the coves. You just go up this coast. It's a wonderful protected harbour, and you pass over World War II wrecks that are on the bottom, clearly marked on the charts.
We could stay here.
So the next day we went to Kokopo, which is where the town of Rabaul virtually moved the business centre down to Kokopo.
Monday, I think, right?
And we arrived there on the Friday and left on the Monday morning, so we had a couple of nights there.
On Monday, and no, we're going through tomorrow.
We moored at this jetty. It looked good, so we moored there, and they didn't seem to mind. There was a fishing tournament going on. A few Australians flew in. And there's 3 of these sports fishing boats operate from there.
No,
mostly Rivieras.
They don't have an office. That's why they said man.
And that complex straight ahead there has a supermarket in it, so we were able to reprovision. Fuel was delivered to us down that jetty in barrels. Took on 1,300 litres from memory. And then Monday morning we departed. And we have to go along the coast of New Britain, about 30 miles before we can turn south. What we're looking to do is to transit the Solomon Sea to get to the Coral Sea. So we go that's the gap between New Guinea and the Solomon Islands. It's a nice spot, Kokopo, and the people were very friendly. George, our customs officer, was chewing betel nut, and he was very, very helpful. So we have to make a bit of northerly here before we can turn south. Once we get into the Solomon Sea, the weather turns against us. We've got headwinds all the way, strong swells, 4 to 5 metres, 7 seconds apart. So we slowed right down. Instead of taking 2 days, it took 5. It was the worst part of the journey. If I had to do it again, I wouldn't come this way. I'd go around the other side of the Solomons. It'd be longer, but far more pleasant. This is also a major shipping channel. hundreds of commercial ships. I think up to 70 a day, because we averaged about 3 an hour. Pass through here, going to and from Australia, New Zealand, Solomons, New Caledonia, Fiji, all those Eastern Pacific nations. And that's their access to Asia. So we really need to look after the Solomons and New Guinea. This is far more important to us. So we're heading south through the South China Sea, the Solomon Sea. The population of New Guinea is about 15 million. As you can see, there's up to 18 ships on the plot at each stage. The southern end of the Solomon Sea is the Lewisades Island group, and the Jomard Passage we pass through. That gives you access to the Coral Sea, and then we can head towards Townsville after passing through the Great Barrier Reef, of course. So we headed on a course southwest. It's finally time to head back west, and Flinders Reef is a large group of reefs off the Great Barrier Reef. We pass north of Flinders Reef,
The Coral Sea,
and then south
150
to
nautical
the
miles
Palm
off
Passage,
Cairns.
which is a major commercial shipping passage.
About to make a southerly turn past Flinders Reef.
This is sailing
Or
across
Townsville.
the Coral Sea. We had a fair breeze, beautiful conditions. So for most of the trip we were very lucky with conditions, just not with the direction of the wind. New Guinea is the world's second largest island and part of the Malay Peninsula. In the Solomon Sea, there's the New Britain Trench. There's 9,140 metres below sea level. That's 30,000 feet, about the same height as the highest mountain in the Himalayas. So we're on the final leg here to Townsville. Mount Everest, I think. So this is beautiful stuff, you know, this is what it's all about. I really enjoyed this part of the trip. On the home leg. So after lining up for the Palm Passage, the Palm Islands are straight ahead, so you come out of this just north of Townsville, and then you've got another 30 odd miles to go down to Magnetic Island. Now on the radar, those icons there represent a virtual beam from the lighthouse on the side of the Palm Passage. We'd never seen it before. I was heading for it there, but when we actually lined up for the passage, it was off to our starboard side. So this is going through the Palm Passage, and as you can see, you can't see anything apart from water. But, this is the beauty of satellite navigation, isn't it? We didn't pass a ship. We passed an outgoing ship during the night before. But this was, so this is Magnetic Island, and we moored. We got there in the middle of the night at low tide, so we moored at Picnic Bay. It's down the bottom of the picture there. And that's actually on the southwest corner of Magnetic Island. And the tide came in high tide was at 12 noon. We went in about 10 a.m. We had plenty of water. So we were booked into the breakwater marina. We ended up staying for 10 days. We were only supposed to stay for 3, but because we're importing the vessel, we had paperwork to do, and we were actually restricted to the port before the paperwork was completed. And although everything was done in 3 days, it ended up in somebody's in tray and didn't get entered into the computer for another week before we were actually released. So we went around to the fuel dock and topped up the fuel tanks. We had to go south to the Gold Coast. Suzanne joined us in Townsville for the final leg. That's Castle Hill in the background as we depart Townsville. It was a very good stay there. The rentals are very cheap. So our first leg was an overnighter. It was 24 hours virtually, from Townsville to Hook Island in the Whitsundays. Suzanne had a go at the helm. Got the feeler as we came into Nara Inlet. Those of you who've been lucky enough to sail and moor in Nara Inlet would know that it's an absolute treasure. One of the most beautiful mooring inlets in the world. It goes up for miles and miles. This is just one bay, one little cove inside the entrance. And it's so protected and beautiful and unspoilt. Crystal clear water. We were there in December, which was a very hot time of year. If I go back, well, when I go back, it'll be in winter. So then we after that leg, we went down to Middle Island, and then we went to Urangan down at Fraser Island. We passed many ships that were moored offshore waiting to be refilled at Able Point for coal and at Gladstone for gas. We counted 100 altogether. I think that was Middle Island where we moored one night. There's quite a few Middle Islands, but it was mostly a sand island. Half it was sand. So we bypassed Urangan and went straight down the Great Sandy Straits, down to Inskip Point.
Waiting for conditions to improve on the White
We
Bay
were
Bar.
moored overnight.
There's the railroad coming in.
Then behind Inskip Point there's a spit of land. A sandbar comes out from there. And the ferry goes backwards and forwards between Inskip Point and Fraser Island. Continually each day. It's a ro-ro. All the forward drives can drive up from Noosa, up the beach. They go across to Fraser Island.
That's Tin Can Bay.
It's very shallow in there. The catamarans can go in closer, but we were
the waterways.
in really shallow water. Like 3 metres, I think it was.
Around
we draw 2.2,
That's the Great Sandy Straits.
and we had to allow for the tide.
You reckon?
But we arrived at low tide, so that was good.
Watch the ferry come in, eh?
So at this point we've made contact with the Tin Can Bay Air Sea Rescue, or VMR, Coast Guard, where they call themselves here, and ascertained the conditions on the bar, and decided that it would be advisable to wait for the high tide tomorrow morning, and exit then if conditions were okay, and that worked out pretty well. One of the features of the Wide Bay Bar is that they have virtual AIS channel markers. So you go out, you have dogleg turns left and right. You don't have to use compass readings, you don't have to use any other navigational aid other than your AIS, as long as it's linked up to your plotter. You just follow the channel, the virtual channel. Whilst we were exiting Wide Bay Bar, 2 fishing boats came in, the prawn trawlers. They've been trawling overnight, and they were still trawling as they came in. They didn't stop. The nets were still down. We gave them a wide berth. We had some short, steep seas going out right towards the end, but nothing severe. And this is the roll-on, roll-off ferry that finished the day, and it's going into its home base in behind Inskip for the night. So Inskip Point to Hope Harbour Marina. Well, we did that in one leg, leaving at dawn on the Saturday morning, all day Saturday, all Saturday night. After we rounded Double Island Point, we were able to turn further west and ease the sheets and have a beautiful boom reach down to Caboolture. To enter the Caboolture Channel, it takes you through very shallow waters to Moreton Bay. And we actually had the best sail of the whole voyage on this leg, which was 2 or 3 hours. Was great. Now the channel from Caboolture through to Moreton Bay, we took the sails down and we motored down there and had a pretty rough night. And we came out, you cross over and you're pretty close to Tangalooma when you come out of the shallow areas into Moreton Bay. And then we cut across Moreton Bay straight into the Broadwater down to Hope Harbour, and we arrived there at 10 to 10 on the Sunday morning, where we gathered our thoughts and celebrated a successful voyage. real damage or problems. Plans for the vessel, the mast was removed about a week later. It's going to be scrapped. We're having a new mast made for her with a furling boom, and already have new sails on board, ready to go. As we currently speak, she's on the slip at Tweed Heads. They have a new ship lift there, and the hull's been polished, and the below the water line's been scrubbed back. It's had 2 coats of primer, and then it's going to have 2 coats of red anti-foul. I think the first one's going on tomorrow. So Hope Harbour's on Hope Island, and it's a nice, safe little marina. People are very good. Power and water is included, and we've got a list of things to do. We just work through them one at a time. Later on in the year we'll be cruising to Tasmania, and we'll do another video then. Thanks for watching, coming along on my voyage. It's been a real adventure. But that's it for now, folks. Thanks for watching.